an imitation of the sweetest dreams, limited by chunky pixels, thus giving room for creativity to thrive. It appears that the games try to teach a simple moral, but their corrupted nature makes each one profoundly sad. They never trick the player or turn into horror halfway through. Rather, the experience is open about itself and up to interpretations. La La Land is the first of its kind, coming out in 2006 when the whole indie game scene consisted of flash games, game maker games, and click-and-play games. Only in the late 2000s will indie games begin to be recognized. La La Land games, uploaded by the user biggt, were made after intensively working on another game. I became overwhelmed with the pressure of knowing that I may never finish it. That's a horrible feeling, especially when you put so much heart into it. These games were like the byproduct of that. La La Land 1's title screen gives a false impression about what the game is like. It's an animation of an ordinary man running to an ordinary woman. If you wait a minute on the title screen, Johnny from the Johnny series by Kimberly Kubus falls from the sky. However, when you start the game, disjointed, demented and fragmentary graphics, structured like walking through a mirror labyrinth while being constantly teleported. That, right there, is your character. An alien-looking character that looks like a child tried drawing as a real character. You can move left and right and jump using the Z button. For seemingly no reason, a number goes up after a noticeable amount of time, almost like a parody of score systems in video games. Elementary attempt to walk results in a traumatic incoherence of a nearly barren world. It's almost as if context for what led to this used to be here but is lost on us. Flickering visual snow does not help this be less disassociative, and that leads me to question, what led the main character to a world like this? Like a beam of hope pressing X shoots out colorful, garland shapes. The player being so small in a large, empty space makes this game lonely. The background, which was almost certainly drawn by stretching out an image in Microsoft Paint, looks like cracks in a wall, but there is no wall. At some point, the map stops, like the game gave up. The first La La Land to me is a gamified equivalent of Everywhere at the End of Time's Stage 5. Digging through the game's sprites, it looks like the flashing grey mass was a character that looks like a cement slab building with poorly drawn dinosaur teeth and a fish sticks sign. And this game could have satisfied the expected route of having enemies to fight, but it chose not to. Thankfully, La La Land 2 is not as alienated, and the only remnants of the horrors from the first game are the jumping text letting us know our budget, and the scratches in the background. Immediately after almost intentional record player static, you can hear a beautiful spoken word song which invokes fairy tale imagery with merry organ music and that delightful early electronic sound. It's from an obscure album, Music, Ecology, and You. And there is a lovely hauntological irony about me in 2024 talking about a game from 2006 using a 1970s song about ecology. I am a poor fish head in need of money. It's okay to steal from the rich, cause they have lots to spare. I like the design of these fish heads. They are the most detailed graphics in the games, and everything is constantly jumpy and jittery in the same way Newgrounds spam and animutations are. In fact, it's the only possible inspiration I can think of at the time the game came out. The two locations of La La Land 2 feel very puppeteered and directed, and the white rectangle in the background almost feels like bright light in a dark room. There's an obvious political message about the wealthy getting their needs met, getting lemonade for their table from tears of someone who looks like our character. It could be us just seeing ourselves from the past in a flashback. Bizarrely, this clone is standing on a once again puppeteered pillar, And notice how none of the rich even touch their drinks or even communicate. A caricature. The moral in this one is only straightforward on a surface level look. But I think this is one of those examples where the deeper meaning is up to interpretation. Oh, thanks, biggt, I want more! And of course, Fishhead, never enough, never-ending hunger for more, and the corruption of someone whom we first met starving. But this one word explains a lot. Biggt. This character's name is biggt, the same as the developer's username. Now we know that this is a developer's self-insert. But there's more to life than this, yet right now the main concern is to protect, share, and feed. Look at the shiny jewelry I bought, thanks, a lot. The spelling mistakes and weird capitalization, though humorous, is a clear example of this series' vulnerability. All of the money that we gave to Fishhead being spent on jewelry is not the terrible reveal. No, the terrible reveal is Fishhead's body. It really is nothing more than a head, and only now it stops being jiggery. A really cool trick has been performed on art styles and perception right now, with the suspension of disbelief making the player assume a disembodied Fishhead is normal in the game's world, but seeing it still attached to the bones after all this time is strange. Take a look at Biggt's mouth too. Does it look healthy to you? Without money, how were the nobles to survive? Now La La Land 3 is when the series gets exciting. Now that we have a more than less established design for Biggt, notice how much taller Biggt is compared to La La Land 1. And I think now is a good time to talk about the title. This came out long before the musical. I think the name is the contrast between a happier imaginary land and the sorrowful reality of these games. The playhouse created so you could dance the polka and be all merry and happy and lala. Anyways, this game surprises us with an original soundtrack. I really love this music, nothing more to say about it other than it sounds intentionally compressed. In 2006 is extremely impressive and ahead of its time. Biggt is jolly, and just looking at him makes me happy as well. I'm sick and tired of eating these oranges every day. There has to be something more. These oranges are drawn in the same way money was from the previous game, but I'm sure that's just how the art style is. How much soul and expression can be put into so few pixels leaves me impressed. Eat the object, press up. You broke your teeth. And this leads me to believe the series is not in a chronological order, because now we realize that the entirely red mouth is Biggt's toothless attempt to smile. Among all these games, the black background remains consistent, and slowly but surely looks better with each entry. You can tell it's noon sky. Reach for the object, push up button. Your arms fell off. You're suddenly overwhelmed with hunger. I imagine talking with this fish would lead to a different ending, a better one probably. But we can't reach the other side of the tree. It seems on the first play that the moral of this game is to disattach oneself from social stigma and keep living the boring life, eating the same oranges every day, afraid to try something new and isolate oneself in the routine and the mundane. Peel oranges with hands, that might be a little difficult. Peel oranges with teeth? I don't think so. Never leave home again. Push down. You learned a very valuable lesson, Biggt. But I don't think that is the true meaning of this game. Rather, I dare to believe that the theme of every La La Land game is desire for more, lost potential, a wistful wish to change, be it past or present, and the more I play, the clearer this theme of desiring something just out of reach becomes to me. Biggt's attempt to change his lifestyle even in such a harmless way as to eat something other than oranges from his lifetime supply he has at home has led to catastrophic failure. La La Land 4 is very surprising, astonishing from its title screen. It's the second game in the series to have a title card, and more importantly, the title card is interactive. Playing this one means walking inside the title card, and more excitingly, there's actual gameplay. Like many platformer games on the same engine that came out later, biggt takes the role of a toothless chef, preparing a stew and occasionally yawning and crying. In the platformer you control two biggts at once, which is not challenging at all. The map design is completely bizarre because the way to go to finish the level is rather obvious, only slightly obscured by the black light, while most of the map that seems exciting and large at first is all but dead ends. You have to restart the map if you fall down a dead end. It looks like biggt is experiencing anxiety before serving the guests and his soul left his body. It's nice to see human characters in this game. And this amazing bass drone starts playing. Think about it very often. Love falls down and biggt enters it like a rocket ship. It's pleasing to see a more normal cinematic scene, like biggt flying a heart-shaped rocket ship to moon. And here he sees some girl with a red nose who I expect to be somebody he loves, or maybe an imaginary friend. He disassociated into another world, a derealization into sweet escapism fantasy while he was supposed to be doing his job, an astral projection, but he can't reach this woman. I have those experiences rarely in dreams. For instance, I had a dream that I got a new vinyl record and I just couldn't get myself to put it on the record player and play it even though I wanted to. And this large, disembodied head is now chasing him, made out of very few pixels, but very zoomed in, like regret from the past about him, not being good enough, eating himself up. I applaud this game for using every moment, awkward or not, to its advantage, for its engaging yet deranged perspective. I'm unsure if the bed stops the dream or leads him to an even deeper dream cycle that was not shown. And that was that. La La Land 5 is my favorite. It presents itself as a game show in the beginning, triumphantly. And at this point, low bitrate TV music is the whole series' audio element that fits perfectly with the aesthetic. Good looking spirals for the background reminiscent of bigt's last game, Uin, 5 days ago. So after La La Land 4, this is where he ended up. I guess this is a wake up scene. Clean graphics and weirdly sharp triangular shadows. For the last game, biggt looks more normal and not out of the ordinary for usual pixel art. Only by the 5th game I understood that most likely biggt is meant to be a cat. He decided to look presentable and wear a suit, and guess why? I'd like you to listen to the lyrics of this song.
What is this thing called Amway? What does it do for you? Why are you so excited? How do your dreams come true? Where do your profits come from? How can I do the same? I want to know success too. Tell me success's name. I said, mister, in this soap, there's a new life, there is hope. Lots of new friends every day, and now we have...
And the cycle repeats 4 times, really stretching the point of the mundane routine. This might have inspired games like Every Day the Same Dream. I think this song, which is the best soundtrack in the whole series, is a promotional song for a controversial pyramid scheme company, Amway, and they made this song, which can only be found through radio archives today, to recruit new members. And they succeed to associate their company name with pleasant things, hope, lots of new friends, and I always hear, where do your profits come from, as prophets, as in biblical prophet. And that is exactly what biggt is doing outside. The series does not fool around when trying to show the state of mind of biggt, who, remember, is a self-insert of the creator, even if completely fictional. La La Land 1 showed what it's like to be inside a traumatized mind, while so far La La Land 5 clearly portrays biggt's hope and a new life as promised by Amway. And what does biggt do to make the world a better place? Find a purpose, a community, and make his financial needs met? He offers religion to people for money, and gets money from giving away Bibles. Religion is good, and it does offer a meaning to life, but it shouldn't be a tool for rich to get richer, especially Christianity. And biggt is being used by Amway as we get less and less monies to reach the food budget. Visual snow fills the screen more and more. And I've got to declare, name dropping a real company in a Surreal series like this is brave and awesome. It's like a breather that reminds us that biggt lives in a similar world to ours, and that's how all of his days go by. He doesn't do anything else except getting money by selling one solution for all problems. And that's true for a lot of people. Fishhead, who all look the same, are sleeping on the Bibles, and the background looks like a child drew pixel art, and we barely met our food budget. Because not reaching the food budget implies death of starvation. At this point, it's anxiety-inducing despair, because all the neighborhood citizens have gotten their Bibles and don't wake up. Again, sleeping on the Bibles is all up to interpretation, like all my favorite works are, and he goes to bed without eating today. It's a heart-wrenching game, and I wish there were more like it. But this time, something terrible happens. Biggt, with a completely desperate, eager smile, without teeth or legs, is barely moving forward on a wheelchair. And the whole city turned to visual snow, while an innocent anti-Darwinism, anti-evolution song for kids is playing of the same oldies era, on top of which a deep emotional drone. Not sure if it's because biggt feels like a monkey, or to show that the radio will always be playing no matter how bad you feel, or to make a point about creationism, I don't know. But what I do know is that the music choice of repeating loops of music so old not even Amway themselves uploaded it is perfect. And I feel so bad for biggt. He has not eaten in 2 days and is probably on a metaphorical wheelchair, but actually dying, on his last legs, moving home with no hope of selling anything. Who knows, maybe they left biggt after he did not come back with any profits. Unreliable. His eyes are 4 pixels, but I feel sad looking at them. I can tell he has a soul. It's incredible how little it takes to create something this impactful if you make it sincere, vulnerable, and put your best effort into it. Thank you, biggt.